Marcus Blackwood stood at his Manhattan penthouse windows, surveying the city that had bowed to his will for 3 decades. At 52, he commanded a $12 billion empire through ruthless determination and an ice-cold heart that had never known mercy. The elevator chimed, announcing his evening's entertainment. His assistant had arranged something different. 2 women entered, escorted by security. The first, Victoria, was conventionally stunning with designer clothes and a practiced smile, but the second woman caught his attention differently. Emma moved with quiet grace, observing the opulent surroundings with genuine curiosity rather than calculation. While Victoria performed her rehearsed admiration for his success, Emma remained silent, following their conversation through careful observation of facial expressions and lip movements. Marcus found himself increasingly fascinated by the sister who said nothing at all. Emma touched his art pieces with reverence, gazed at city lights with wonder rather than calculation. When Victoria laughed at his stories, Emma offered gentle smiles that seemed genuinely warm. As the evening concluded with the expected transaction, both women prepared to leave. Victoria collected her payment efficiently, but Marcus noticed Emma refusing her share, communicating something to Victoria in sign language he couldn't understand. Only then did Marcus realize Emma was deaf, and everything about her behavior suddenly made perfect sense. In a world where people constantly performed for his attention and wealth, she had simply existed in his space with quiet dignity. For the first time in years, Marcus had encountered someone who couldn't be impressed by his voice or intimidated by his words. 3 days later, Emma returned alone, carrying a small package. She placed it on his desk and showed him a typed message on her phone. "You left your watch in Victoria's purse. She asked me to return it." Marcus discovered his vintage Patek Philippe wrapped with a note. "I noticed you checking the time often during dinner. I thought you might need this back." "Emma." He studied the delicate handwriting, then typed, "How did you know it was important to me?" Emma smiled and typed back, "You touched it whenever Victoria said something that made you uncomfortable. It seemed like a comfort gesture." The observation stunned him. In 40 years of business dealings, no one had noticed such a subtle tell, yet this woman who couldn't hear had seen through his facade in one evening. Marcus found himself genuinely curious. He typed, "Would you like some coffee?" Emma hesitated, then nodded. As she settled across from his desk, Marcus realized charm and intimidation were useless tools here. All he had was honesty, something he wasn't sure he remembered how to access. Over the next hour, Marcus discovered that silence could be more eloquent than speech. Emma communicated through her phone's notepad, creating written dialogue that forced careful word choice. Each exchange required thought and intention. She told him about her work as a librarian at a school for deaf children, how she had learned that communication transcended sound. Her words painted pictures of a world where people spoke with hands, faces, entire beings. Marcus found himself sharing things he'd never spoken aloud. He wrote about the loneliness of success, how each achievement cost him another piece of humanity. Stripped of his commanding voice and intimidating presence, he was just a man trying to explain his chosen isolation. Emma's responses showed profound wisdom. She wrote about how silence taught her to notice what others missed: tension in shoulders, truth in eyes, communication in spaces between words. When she mentioned Victoria, her expression grew complicated. Her sister had protected her after their parents died when Emma was 15, but protection had gradually become control. Marcus understood that dynamic. His wealth created similar isolation, where everyone had agendas preventing genuine connection. They both lived in bubbles, his made of money and power, hers constructed from others' assumptions about her limitations. As afternoon faded, Marcus felt genuine reluctance to end their conversation. He typed words that surprised him. "Would you like to come back tomorrow?" Chapter 4. A different kind of wealth. Emma began visiting regularly, always afternoons when Marcus's business day wound down. She never asked for anything, never seemed impressed by his wealth, never treated him like Marcus Blackwood, the billionaire. To her, he was simply a man who had forgotten how to connect. She brought books from her library, sharing stories about her students' remarkable resilience. Marcus learned about deaf culture, not a disability community, but a linguistic minority with rich traditions. Emma taught him basic signs, and he found himself eagerly learning this new expression. Their communication evolved beyond typed messages to include gestures, expressions, and intuitive understanding Marcus had never experienced. Emma read his moods with uncanny accuracy, often arriving on brutal business days when he needed her peaceful presence. Marcus began seeing his penthouse through Emma's eyes and found it wanting. Expensive artwork acquired for prestige seemed cold. Furniture designed to impress felt unwelcoming. Slowly, he made changes, adding plants Emma admired, replacing harsh lighting, creating contemplative spaces rather than commanding ones. Emma introduced him to her students through photographs and stories. Marcus found himself genuinely interested in their individual journeys, understanding the difference between success and fulfillment for the first time. When Emma mentioned the school's resource needs, Marcus made the largest donation in its history. Quietly, without fanfare, simply because Emma's students deserved better tools. It was the first time his wealth served something beyond his advancement. Chapter 5. Victoria's concern. 3 months later, Victoria arrived unannounced, her composure barely concealing agitation. She'd heard about Emma's visits and confronted Marcus in his study, voice sharp with protective anger. "Emma doesn't belong in your world," Victoria stated. "She's not like us. She can't protect herself from people like you." Marcus listened without defending himself, recognizing truth in her accusations. He had drawn Emma into his orbit, selfishly seeking peace without considering potential costs. Victoria's words cut deeper. "She's developing feelings she can't understand. Emma has never been in love. She doesn't know how to protect her heart from someone who doesn't have one." The accusation penetrated his armor. Marcus thought of Emma's gentle smiles, obvious joy in their conversations, her face lighting up when she saw him. Had he been blind to her growing attachment? Victoria's ultimatum was surgical. "End this before you destroy her. Let her return to real life with people who understand and can love her properly." After Victoria left, Marcus sat staring at Emma's usual chair. The silence felt oppressive rather than peaceful. He realized that seeking salvation through Emma's friendship might have endangered the very qualities that made her precious. The thought of hurting someone so genuinely good made him feel like the monster he'd always suspected himself to be. Chapter 6. The painful decision. Marcus spent 3 sleepless nights wrestling with Victoria's words. He stood at his windows, but the city now seemed cold and unforgiving. The realization that he'd been selfish in their friendship weighed like physical pain. He examined their conversations through Victoria's accusations. Had he misread friendship as something deeper? Was Emma's happiness really romantic affection he'd been too self-absorbed to recognize? The possibility that he'd unknowingly encouraged feelings he couldn't reciprocate made him sick. Marcus forced honest self-examination. Emma had become precious, but he couldn't distinguish love from desperate gratitude for acceptance. Emotionally frozen for so long, he wasn't sure he could offer the pure love Emma deserved. The age difference bothered him more now. At 28, Emma should be building relationships with peers who shared her experiences, not someone old enough to be her father with decades of accumulated cynicism. His reputation haunted him. Ruthless corporate raider, heartless businessman. Associating with him could damage Emma's standing in her community. She worked with children needing positive role models, not someone connected to his moral compromises. Most painful was Victoria's accuracy about Emma's innocence. Emma's worldview was built on trust, kindness, belief in fundamental human goodness. Marcus's world would inevitably corrupt those beautiful qualities. As dawn broke, Marcus made the decision that felt like tearing out his heart. He would end their friendship before causing more damage. Chapter 7. The Farewell. When Emma arrived for their usual visit, Marcus had prepared what he believed would be kind but final goodbye. Facing her genuine smile nearly broke his resolve. Emma settled in her chair and pulled out her phone to share something from her day. Her animated description of a student breakthrough, obvious joy in work, complete trust in their friendship made Marcus feel like he was destroying something sacred. He typed, "Emma, I need to talk to you about something important." She noted his serious expression and typed back, "What's wrong? You look upset." Marcus struggled for honest but not cruel words. "I think we need to stop these visits. This friendship isn't fair to you." Emma stared at the message, then looked up. "Did Victoria talk to you?" Her directness surprised him. He nodded, unable to lie. Emma typed, "She's trying to protect me, but I'm not a child. I can make my own decisions." Marcus felt his heart breaking. "She's right, though. We're from different worlds. You deserve someone who can love you properly." Emma read twice, understanding dawning. She looked at him for a long moment. "You think I'm in love with you?" The simple statement hung between them. Marcus found himself unable to respond. Emma stood, moved to the window, stared at the city for several minutes. When she returned, "Maybe I am falling in love with you, but that's my choice to make and my heart to risk. You don't get to decide what I can handle." Chapter 8. Emma's Strength. Emma's defiance shattered Marcus's protective narrative. He watched her pace his study, movements sharp with anger rather than usual grace. When she sat again, her eyes blazed with unexpected intensity. She typed rapidly, "Do you think I'm stupid? Do you think because I can't hear that I can't understand complex emotions or make difficult decisions?" Marcus was genuinely surprised by her anger. This fierce woman revealed depths he hadn't imagined, and he realized he had been patronizing her. Emma continued, "I've been making my own decisions since I was 15. I raised myself after our parents died because Victoria was too busy surviving. I put myself through college, built my career, learned to navigate a world that treats me like I'm intellectually disabled because I'm deaf. I don't need another person deciding what's best for me." Her words hit like physical blows. He'd been treating her like a delicate creature needing protection when she was stronger than most people he knew. Emma's next message was devastating. "I thought you were different. I thought you saw me as an equal, not as a charity case or someone to be managed." Marcus typed frantically, "I do see you as an equal. That's why I have to let you go. You deserve better." Emma actually laughed without humor. "You're doing the same thing everyone else does. You're deciding what I need instead of asking what I want." The truth stunned him. He was repeating paternalistic patterns that had probably frustrated Emma her entire life. Emma gathered her things. Before leaving, she typed, "I don't need you to love me back. I don't need you to be perfect. I just needed you to respect me enough to let me make my own choices. I guess I was wrong about you too." After she left, Marcus sat surrounded by changes she'd inspired, feeling like he'd made the biggest mistake of his life. Chapter 9. Consequences of Choice. Weeks following Emma's departure passed like slow death for Marcus. His penthouse felt like a mausoleum filled with her memories. Plants she'd admired began withering. Books she'd shared remained untouched. Even her chair mocked him with emptiness. Marcus threw himself into work, trying to recapture cold satisfaction business victories once provided, but deals that should have thrilled him felt hollow. His assistants worried about increasingly erratic behavior and dark moods. Sleep became sporadic. Marcus would wake reaching for his phone to type unsent messages, apologies, explanations, declarations of feelings he was only beginning to understand. Media noticed changes in his approach. Where once ruthlessly aggressive, Marcus now seemed distracted, walking away from profitable but morally questionable deals. His board called emergency meetings about unprecedented behavior. Marcus began visiting Emma's school, parking outside, watching from a distance as she arrived each morning. He never approached, knowing he'd forfeited that right, but couldn't stop checking her well-being. He observed her interactions with students, noting her warmth remained unchanged. One afternoon, seeing Victoria arrive at the school, Marcus realized even her protective sister remained part of Emma's life while he remained exiled by his own cowardice. The sight triggered fresh self-loathing. He'd let Victoria manipulate him instead of fighting for their friendship. His physician expressed concern about obvious weight loss and pallor. But how could he explain grieving someone who might have saved his soul? Chapter 10. The Breaking Point. 6 weeks later, Marcus learned Emma had been hospitalized after collapsing at work. She'd been pushing herself too hard, working extra hours to avoid an apartment that felt empty without their conversations to anticipate. Marcus arrived despite having no right to be there. He found Victoria in the waiting room, perfect composure finally cracked, revealing the frightened sister beneath. Seeing him, her expression cycled through surprise, anger, finally something approaching relief. "She won't talk about what happened between you," Victoria said, "but she's been slowly destroying herself since you cut her out." Marcus felt like drowning. "I thought I was protecting her. You said she deserved better." Victoria studied his haggard appearance, noting the obvious toll their separation had taken on him too. "I was wrong," she admitted quietly. "I was so focused on protecting Emma from hurt that I didn't consider she might be strong enough to handle whatever you had together." The admission hit like revelation. Victoria, who'd seemed certain about Emma's limitations, was acknowledging she'd underestimated her sister's strength. "Emma's been deaf her whole life, but I've never seen her as lost as these past weeks. She said losing your friendship felt like losing her ability to communicate all over again." Marcus felt tears threatening for the first time in years. His absence had caused Emma profound pain when he'd convinced himself he was sparing her suffering. "What can I do?" he asked, voice breaking. "Stop making decisions for her. If you care about Emma, trust her to know what she wants. Stop being another person who thinks they know better about her own life." Chapter 11. Honest Conversations. Emma looked up as Marcus entered her hospital room, expressions cycling through surprise, pain, and something like hope. She gestured to the chair beside her bed. For the first time, Emma spoke aloud, voice soft from years of disuse. "I missed our talks." Marcus felt weeks of held-back tears finally falling. "I missed them too. I missed you." Emma reached for the bedside notepad, writing, "Why did you really end our friendship?" Marcus took the pen and wrote honestly, "Because I was falling in love with you and terrified I would hurt you." Emma read and smiled sadly. She wrote back, "Did it occur to you that the choice to love you and risk getting hurt should have been mine to make?" The simple question exposed his reasoning's fundamental flaw. Marcus had been so focused on protecting Emma from potential pain that he'd inflicted certain pain instead. Marcus wrote, "I thought I was too damaged to love anyone properly. I thought you deserved someone whole." Emma's response came quickly. "I'm not looking for perfection. I was looking for honesty, for someone who saw me as an equal partner." Their written conversation continued for hours, revealing layers of misunderstanding. Emma explained how his rejection felt like confirmation of every doubt about her worth. Marcus shared his terror of becoming another person, claiming to care while controlling her choices. Emma wrote, "I don't need you to be my protector. I need you to be my partner." The distinction was profound. Marcus realized he'd been thinking in terms of guardianship rather than partnership. Emma continued, "I've been independent my whole life because I've had to be. I don't want someone to take care of me. I want someone to choose to build a life with me." Chapter 12. Rebuilding Trust. Marcus spent 3 months proving he'd learned from mistakes. Instead of grand gestures, he focused on small, consistent actions, demonstrating genuine respect for Emma's autonomy and intelligence. He learned American Sign Language properly, studying deaf culture and history as a rich linguistic heritage rather than disability to overcome. When Emma expressed interest in expanding school programs, Marcus offered business expertise rather than money, helping research funding and navigate administration. Their relationship rebuilt slowly, with careful attention to power balance. Emma established clear boundaries about independence. Marcus learned to ask, "How can I support you?" instead of assuming knowledge of her needs. They addressed the age difference honestly, acknowledging challenges while recognizing different perspectives it brought. Emma's youth provided optimism Marcus had lost. His experience offered stability that could enhance rather than overshadow her capabilities. Marcus began attending deaf community events, initially feeling like an outsider, but gradually being accepted as someone genuinely wanting to understand rather than change her world. Most importantly, Marcus learned to trust Emma's judgment about her own needs. When she pursued a master's degree, he supported without influencing. When she chose to maintain her apartment rather than moving in, he respected her independence, despite preferring cohabitation. Chapter 13. A New Understanding. 1 year after reconciliation, Marcus watched Emma receive a teaching award, recognition earned entirely through her talent and dedication. As she signed her acceptance speech to the mixed audience, Marcus felt pride deeper than any business success. That evening in Emma's apartment, they sat reading together. The comfortable silence between them had evolved into something richer than original conversations, filled with mutual understanding and respect. Emma looked up and signed, "What are you thinking about?" Marcus set aside his papers and signed back, "How wrong I was about everything." She moved closer. "What do you mean?" Marcus considered carefully before signing. "I thought love meant protecting someone from pain. I thought it meant being stronger so they could be weaker. I thought it meant making decisions for them." Emma nodded encouragingly. "But real love means trusting someone to be strong enough to choose their own risks. It means standing beside them, not in front of them. It means believing in their ability to handle whatever life brings." Emma reached for his hands, eyes bright with tears. She signed, "You learn to see me as a whole person instead of someone who needed fixing." Marcus brought her hands to his lips. In the year since reconciliation, Emma had changed him, not by diminishing his strength, but by showing him how to use it in service of something greater. His business had evolved too, focusing on sustainable practices and employee welfare. Success felt more meaningful when built on principles Emma would approve of. That night, as Emma slept beside him, Marcus reflected on their journey. He'd started believing love required sacrifice of self or others, that relationships were zero-sum games. Emma had taught him love multiplied rather than divided, that two strong people could create something together neither could achieve alone. She'd shown him protection without respect was just control. That partnership required trusting your loved one's capability. For the first time in 53 years, Marcus understood loving someone without trying to change them, supporting without smothering, caring without controlling. In learning to love Emma properly, he'd finally become the man he'd always had potential to be. Thank you for listening to Marcus and Emma's journey of learning to love with respect and equality. Their story reminds us that true love isn't about protecting someone from life's challenges, but about trusting them to face those challenges while knowing you'll be there to support them. We'd love to hear your thoughts about their relationship and where you're from in the comments below. Your perspectives from around the world always enrich our storytelling community.